So there's an understanding here of the deeper principles that lie behind that are at the foundation in the practice, in the spiritual practice, or even the cultural practice in our tradition, is study and divine service. One of the most important um, ways of, well, let me be really straightforward with this, to tune into the divine dimension. It's very important to balance deliberation and devotion. Now, that rolls off the tongue really nice. There's a lot of rhyming there. So I'll say it again. To tune into the divine dimension, it's really important to balance deliberation and devotion. So it's really the balance between mind and heart. And the Slonemer today gives us a beautiful teaching on how that's reflected in the story of Bilam blessing instead of cursing the people of Israel, and how the Torah is teaching us a lesson in disguise. Again, we're going into Netivot Shalom, Rabbi Shalom Noach Berzhovsky, the Gera Rebbe of late 20th century. B'Gemara Sanhedrin, Ita, in the Talmud, in the Tractate of Sanhedrin, 105, side 2, it is said, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mibirchato shel oto rasha talamed ma haya belibo. Rabbi Yochanan said that we can learn from the blessing of that evil one. The evil one he's referring to is Bilam, the sorcerer. Atalamed ma haya belibo. You can learn what his true intentions were, and this is the intention to curse. ביקש לומר שלא יהיו להם בתי כנסיות ובתי מדרשות וכו'. He wanted to curse them that they should never have places of worship and should never have houses of study, synagogues and schools. Uverashi, and apropos, I mean, he's going to get to this in a moment, but let me just jump the gun. He's referring particularly to the well-known verse, Matovu Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Israel, which is part of the morning prayer. Matovu Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Israel. So in the morning we sing that blessing. How good are your tents, O Jacob? How good are your dwellings, Israel? Beautiful poetics. So Rabbi Yochanan here is telling us, you can see that in this blessing, you can deduce what the intention for curse was. Because remember that Bilam's intention, or he was commissioned to curse them, but God, as the story goes, changed his curse, according to the Talmud, into a blessing. Uverashi, dichtiv vayafoch Adonai Elohecha lecha et haklala livracha. And Rashi interpreted, and God has transformed the curse into a blessing. Bilam wanted to curse them that they should not have places of worship. But But God did not allow that, and instead what came out of Bilam's mouth was, how good are your tents, Jacob? Tents here are referring to places of worship, says Rashi. And later on in the same tractate in the Talmud, Amar Rabbi Abba bar Kahana, said Rabbi Abba ben Kahana, the son of Kahana, Kulam chazru leklala chutz mibatei knesiot umibatei midrashot. Now this is interesting. Rabbi Kahana says that all of the blessings that Bilam blessed them 3 times, there's 3 long paragraphs in the Chumash, in the Torah, all of those later turned back into curses, but one. And that's this one. How good are your tents, Jacob? How good are your dwellings, Israel? Which are referring to places of worship and schools. שנאמר, ויהפוך אדוני אלוהיך לך את הקללה לברכה, as it says, and God has transformed, God your God, Adonai your God, had transformed the curse, singular, into the blessing, singular. כי אהבך אדוני אלוהיך קללה ולא קללות. Okay, so what Rabbi Kana here is saying, and this is, this is a Talmudic splitting of hairs, is saying this. When it says in the Torah that God transformed all the curse into blessing, it does not say that God transformed all the curses into blessings, plural. It says in the singular, because the Torah here is using the singular, what that indicates is that all the other curses that turned into blessings then later rolled back into curses. The point is that the Torah or the Talmud is putting an emphasis on this particular blessing. How good are your tents? In other words, how good are your places of worship? How good are your dwellings? In other words, how good are your schools? There's something there that is really important, and the Slonimer is going to tell us why it's important. Let's continue. צריך ביאור, מהו המיוחד בברכה זו של בתי כנסיות ובתי מדרשות? So the Slonimer asks, we need to understand, we need to interpret here, what's so special about this blessing of houses of worship and places of worship and houses of study? Because it was only here that God had turned the curse into a blessing for all eternity. ויש לומר, על פי מה שבארנו עניין ברכה וקללה, לעניין ברכה הוא הדבקות בהשם יתברך. So we can say, as we have said before, he means himself, as I have mentioned before, says the Slonimer, the matter of blessing and curse is as follows. The matter of blessing is the linkage to the Holy One, blessed be. שבשעה שאיש יהודי דבוק באדוני אלוקיו, שורה עליו ברכה. When a person, when a Jew or a person links himself, him or herself, to Adonai, his or her God, then blessing comes upon him or her. והקללה היא כאשר יהודי נפרד ומנותק מהדבקות בהשם יתברך. And the curse comes when a Jew, when a person separates his or herself from the linkage to the Holy One, blessed be. שאז שורים עליו דינים. And then there's a harshness, there's an energy of exactitude, of harshness, comes upon him or her. ועל דרך דברי הרמב"ם במורה נבוכים, and as as is explained in by the Rambam, Rabbi Moses, son of Maimon, the great scholar of the 12th century, in his book, The Guide for the Perplexed, שכל המקרים הרעים שקרו לצדיקים והנביאים, all the bad luck, the bad things that happened to the righteous and to the prophets, and he's talking about the biblical account, so all the stories where you see righteous people or prophets that are getting into trouble by having hardship, those happened when they were distracted, when they turned their attention away from their linkage to the Holy One. Because when they are linked, when they're tuned in to divinity, nothing negative can happen to them. ומטרתו של בלעם הייתה לנתק דבקות ישראל בשם יתברך, and Bilam's purpose, or his strategy, you could say, was to sever the linkage between Israel and the Holy One. כדי שעל ידי זה יוכלו לשרות עליהם קללות, in order to set the conditions for bringing upon them curses. וזו הייתה כוונתו בבית החטאים, and this was his intention with the two sins. And this is just to explain this later on. It says that the people of Israel strayed in their relationship with the Midianites. Bilam was a Midianite. And the two sins were Bnot Moav uBaal Peor. They strayed by having conjugal relationships with the daughters of Moab, and and by worshiping those ladies. In other words, Israelite men would engage sexually and intimately with the daughters of Moab, and they were invited to worship the Moabite god Baal Peor, and they so did. So those were the two sins that he's referring to here. Now listen to this. It's a very nice analysis that he's going to suggest here. The source of a Jewish person's linkage to the Holy One, hu b'moach hu b'lev, is through the mind and through the heart. You can see where he's going now. Shehem bet hamivtzarim haruchaniim. Those are the two spiritual strongholds, shal yadam midabek Yehudi be'Adonai, through which a Jew, a person, links to Adonai, to the divine. So let me point out the connection. There are two sins, the daughters of Moab and the worship of Baal Peor. And so there are two spiritual strongholds that are the mind and the heart. And the Slonomer here is going to make a link, but not quite yet. He's going to develop this a little further. It's quite elegant. כמו שמצינו במצוות תפילין שציוונו להניח על היד שהיא כנגד הלב ועל הראש כנגד המוח. Just like when we are receiving the instruction to lay tefillin, the mitzvah of tefillin, is we're instructed to wrap the tefillin on our arm, which is opposite the heart, on the left arm, ve'al harosh, and on the head, on the forehead, which is right where the mind is seated, in the brain. Ki inyan tefillin hu dvekut b'Hashem yitbarach, and the whole purpose of wrapping tefillin is to enhance, to facilitate the linkage with the Holy One, blessed be. ועל כן מונחים הם כנגד המוח והלב. And that's why they are laid upon the forehead and the heart, for the mind and for the heart, שבהם מקור הדבקות באדוני, which are the sources of linkage, the two sources of linkage with the divine dimension. Beautiful. So you see the structure, the architecture of this teaching is starting to emerge. And let us continue. We're going to tie this all together now. ובלעם זמם לטמא את המוח והלב. So what did Bilam plan on doing? Bilam wanted to pollute both the mind and the heart through these two sins. In other words, Bilam instigated, according to the later tradition, the daughters of Moab to engage with the men from Israel and to invite them to worship the Baal Peor, to worship their idol. So this is referred. He wasn't only a sorcerer, but he was, I guess, also a schemer. And this is according to later tradition. It's not actually, you won't find that in the Torah itself, but that's later in the Talmud. That is the claim. And why did he do that? He did that in order to sort of lay the ground by sort of destabilizing, weakening the ability of Israel to have the linkage to the divine dimension. By inviting them to worship Baal Peor, that was weakening the stronghold of the mind. To bring, introduce them to wrong concepts about idol worship that pollute the clarity of the spiritual mind. You see. How that happens is, I feel myself wanting to get into that, but I'm going to actually put that on the shelf for now. That's a really interesting topic to develop for another time, about what does idol worship have to do with polluting and mucking up the clarity of mind. And the second strategy, and the engagement with the daughters of Moab symbolizes, according to the astronomer, the clouding of the desires of the heart. And he continues, והעצה כנגד בית חטאים אלו המטמאים מוח ולב היא על ידי תורה ותפילה. So what now is the antidote? What is the remedy for pollution at the mind level and the heart level? Those are the study of Torah and divine service, or to be more literal, and prayer. Because both of those cleanse the heart and the mind. Study of Torah cleanses the mind, and prayer, I want to say divine service actually, or spiritual practice. So both study of Torah and spiritual practice in our tradition cleanse the mind and the heart. So I just want to pause here and take a breath. I'm getting excited. I hope you are too. So there's an understanding here of the deeper principles that lie behind, that are at the foundation in the practice, in the spiritual practice, or even the cultural practice in our tradition, is study and divine service. Study and prayer. Or let me say, to be really simple about it, study and services. Study Torah and join a minyan and be at a service. Now, let me say that I want to acknowledge that for many of us, those are not really truly accessible. In other words, we can sit and study until our eyes cross and our mind it turns into a puddle, because perhaps we have not had the training in how to do that efficiently. And we can go to services, and how many times do you know that you want to get up and leave because you're bored to death, right? So I want to just acknowledge that both those institutions and practices of Torah study and tefillah and prayer are sometimes inaccessible to us. There's something that got lost, and again, we can study that. How did the Holocaust impact that? How did modernity impact that? How did Enlightenment in Europe impact that? How did we lose our facility with the sophisticated a system of practice that came down the tradition, but to a lot of us, the connection or the way to implement and really take advantage of those perhaps is lost for now. But the foundation of that is the attending or the tending to a clear mind and a clear heart, you see. And that is hinted, this is the deep message of the Torah in the blessing, how good are your tents, Jacob, and how good are your dwellings, Israel. It brings our attention back to how important is the clear and sharp and fine-tuned mind, and how important it is to have a clear and full and clean and vibrant heart to access the divine dimension. Back to the Slonimer. V'zeu ma tovu alecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. And this is what's meant in the Torah when it says, how good are your tents, Jacob, how good are your dwellings, Israel. It's referring here to houses of worship and places of worship and houses of study. Because obviously, just to beat this to death a little bit, he's repeating himself a little bit, but because the places of worship are the place where we work on the heart level, and houses of study are the place where we work on the mind level. And this brings us to the linkage, to the access to the divine dimension. This is where we can have the real experience, the real spiritual, authentic spiritual journey within the technology of Jewish tradition. והכוח של ויהפוך אדוני אלוהיך לך את הקללה לברכה, כי אהבך אדוני אלוהיך, כוח התורה וכוח התפילה. So the potential or the force of the verse and Adonai your God has transformed curse into blessing because Adonai your God loves you, is through the force of Torah study and the force of spiritual practice or heart level practice. And this force is eternal. The trappings of it may not be eternal. The different ways we studied Torah or prayed or did divine service over generations may have changed. But the force of the clarifying and charging those realms, those two strongholds of spiritual existence, that is eternal. שלעולם יהיה לישראל את כוח התורה והתפילה, שלא תשכח מפי זרעו. That, says the Sonomer, forever, for all eternity, will Israel have the force or the potential of Torah and prayer, and it will never be forgotten. How can he say that? I mean, in some ways we are the generation who's forgotten it. But I think what he's saying here, or what I take from it, is that the potential to reconnect is always there. Essentially. And through this, the linkage to the divine dimension, that the Holy One, blessed be, will always be there. And curses will never be able to take hold with them. We can never be cursed when we reconnect with the essence of our spiritual tradition. What a beautiful message. I want to pause here for a second and breathe on that, or breathe with that. When I, as a person, reconnect to the essence of my divine service, both through mind work and heart work, and the synthesis of both. I think what the Sonomer is pointing out to us here also, he's not saying it, but I want to say it. This is my take that I'd like to offer to you for consideration. It's not only that we have both, and that the acknowledgement of the tents and the dwellings, the mind and the heart is important, but keeping those in balance, having both of those work in some kind of integrative way. That is the key to our Jewish spiritual practice. Study and prayer. Learning, analysis, deliberation, and devotion. Both together are the path. May we be blessed in our lives that we have both in abundant, and we attain both the clarity and the vitality on both levels. And may this day be the day when you and I tap in a little deeper to the study of Torah, and a little deeper into the spiritual practice, prayer, meditation, song, contemplation, personal prayer, communal prayer, prayer from the book, prayer from the heart, all of those combined. Amen. Let us go strong. Thank you so much for joining this lesson here today. It's really an honor and privilege to share these exciting inspirational teachings with you. I'm Rabbi Reuben Modik with Hebrew Learning Circles and Makom Halev Community here in Nyack, New York. If you're in the area, stop by or drop a note. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's a red subscribe button on the bottom right of the frame of the YouTube video. Just click that. Also like us. Those of us who are watching on Facebook, thank you. Please like us. Share your comments below. Let's keep the conversation going. Shalom for now.